Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm here with Rebecca Monet. I'm Elizabeth Denham, and we are the co-founders of the Coterie for Women and publishers of the Franchise Women magazine. So Rebecca, tell us how your week is going.
Once again, it is Wednesday, which means hump day happy hour. No, was it Wednesday? It's Tuesday.
You scared me for a minute. I thought I lost a day. We're recording on our not normal day. Oh my I'm goodness. Sorry. That's disappointing. I know.
I just thought for sure it would be our night to celebrate.
I know, but I'm glad it's not because I need the rest of the day to get stuff done.
That's true. Don't want to lose 24
hours. Made my heart sink. I was like, what? It's Wednesday? Oh, no.
Oh, goodness.
Well, tell me what your rose and thorn are.
Oh, so my thorn this week is I got a flat tire. It's only the second flat tire I've had in my entire life.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I know nothing about these things.
How does that happen to you? So many times.
So fortunately, you call AAA and they come out, and the flat tire happened just as I'm pulling into Lowe's parking lot. Probably ran over something, a nail or whatever. But suffice it to say, I was able to go shopping while I'm waiting on AAA to come change my tire. And it was easy peasy, but it was kind of a pain in the rumpus at the same time because my tires are kind of special tires and I have to order them. So I am driving on a donut.
Oh, no.
I think that's what they're called, right? A donut. And I've never driven on a donut before. The silly thing, I've owned the car since 2008. It has 250,000 miles on this car. I've never had the donut on. So I don't know how
still functional?
Yeah, it was fine. Wow. The guy checked it all out. Everything was just fine. But I had never driven on a donut before. So yesterday, my 11-year-old granddaughter is in the choir and had a performance. So I had to drive about 60 miles. So I'm calling my son, can I drive on a donut? He goes, what do you mean drive on a donut? And I said, I got a flat tire. I got a donut. Can I drive that far on a donut? He goes, yeah, you can. You just don't want to go too fast.
Yeah.
So the rose out of all of that is my son and family are cracking up. They basically are saying, we've never seen a Mercedes driving on a donut before. And I hadn't thought about that way because, it's a rare sight to see a donut anyway. But they're just cracking up at me pulling up at this concert with a donut, driving on a donut instead of a tire. It brought a laugh, right? It was kind of funny. A hassle. I had to order the tires and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you can always take every situation and turn it into something fun.
There you go. That's pretty funny. That's a good one.
This old car, it just keeps on ticking, but oh my.
Well, that's what those well-made cars do. They run forever, right?
They run forever, but cosmetically, they start to look kind of dreary.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your rose and thorn this week?
Well, my rose is, we've been having car trouble forever, it seems like.
A theme going on here.
I know, that was miserable. But Joseph's driving Luke's car while we try to find an engine for his. Luke's car had brake issues that were grinding. So Donald and Jake replaced the brakes, got it running. Jake drove it back, and then the brake would depress and get stuck. It wouldn't come back up. So Jake realizes it's starting to smoke and smell because it's burning rubber. So we get it. He goes in there and fixes another part. Well, it works for a little while. Then Joseph's now driving that car. So he went to Target, calls me, and he said, tire smoking. I was like, good Lord. So yesterday afternoon, I spent half the afternoon driving around trying to get him, and he had agreed to pick his girlfriend up from school. And so I had to go pick her up because she didn't have a ride at that point. drive them to Target. Luckily, Donald had a minute and he went and fixed it. It was a brake line. So so it's fixed. So my rose is he's driven it today, and so far so good. So that means that we're down to one bad car.
I'm telling you, this is a theme. Something about cars, vehicles, moving on with life. Whatever. We're just gonna have to call this episode the car episode.
Yeah. Well, luckily Donald's handy because he's down in the Target parking lot on the ground changing a brake line,
fixing it. Yeah, I wished I had someone handy around like that. I need a Donald in Arkansas.
Handy. You do. He can pretty much do anything. He can fix anything, make anything. He is a handy dude.
He's a handy dude.
So he's so busy being handy, and his job has gotten busy lately that he's not home as much. And it's March in Alabama, and which means the grass is 2 feet tall.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Joseph mows the front. Donald doesn't love him to mow the back because we have a pool and you can spew grass into the pool. So I said, well, I'll just mow for you because you have too many things to do. And he's like, no, you don't. He kind of scoffed and laughed like, you can't do that. I was like, do you remember that I was a single mother for 8 years and I did all of it?
Right.
And he's like, you just don't need to be doing that. It's really tall and it's really hard and blah, blah, blah.
That's
so the minute you tell me I can't,
you're going to do it. You're going to have to do it behind his back though. You know that.
Well, I did. I just went and did it. And I told Joseph and his little girlfriend, Sydney, she was over here, and I was like, I'm doing it. And Joseph's like, was that reverse psychology on his part? Did he trick you into thinking you could do it? I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he really genuinely scoffed at me and meant you can't do it.
You can't do it.
So I do it, and it takes forever. And I had to run, get gas. And it was thick. And I was having to push the thing down and lift it to get into the thick. It was just a pain in the rear, but it does look so good. But look.
I saw that.
You see it?
Okay. Yeah.
That's from mowing. Because it was so hard to push that it was, just rubbing on that. I was turning with that hand. So I had this scrape on my elbow because the sticker bush was coming through the fence and it grabbed me. So I take a picture. I'm like, I'm bleeding here. I've got this blister here. And he's like, mowing is not a contact sport. I realized that, but say thank you. I got it done. He's like, well, if you have to maim yourself to get it done, then you shouldn't be doing it. And I'm like, you could just say thanks.
It's spring.
Wonderful. You're such an amazing wife. So my thorn is this. It's been driving me crazy all day long.
Yeah, I can see that. That looks like an owie to me.
Yeah, so I had a beginnings of one on this one, but it didn't break through.
You had 2 thorns this week then, the car and that's having to mow the lawn.
But they're both also roses because the car is fixed and the yard looks nice.
There you go. It's the way life is. It's all how you look at it.
So now I'm looking out in the backyard feeling all proud of myself because I mowed, which is so dumb because anybody can mow. You don't need to be proud of being able to.
I can't mow.
You can't mow? You just push.
Didn't have to in California. We didn't have grass.
Yeah. See, when I lived on a farm, we had a riding lawnmower or a bush hog. Mm-hmm. I didn't actually have to push anything.
Is it a bush hog or a brush hog?
Bush. B-U-S.
All these years I've been calling it a brush hog. It's a bush hog.
Well, my brother thought a volleyball was a volleyball, so you're in good company. and they thought a bra was a brawl.
Well, it is actually. There's quite a brawl going on when you're
hoisting those things up, right?
That's right. It's a tough situation. It's like
funny, but yes, it is
two pigs in a sack. Yep. No.
The bush. That's so funny. Learned something new today.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that's it for our roses and thorns for this week until next week when we're back talking about our other roses and thorns.
Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here today with Bethany McClellan. She is a business owner. Her business plan, Rapid Business Plans is the name of her business, and she has rapid loan packages as well. She has served small businesses and startups throughout the United States, providing custom written business plans with 12, 24, and 36 projections and assumptions for SBA, 7A, 504, USDA, and conventional loans. Also does investor visas and commercial leases. Business planning, loans, you name it, Bethany does it, and she does it fast. She was awarded Expertise.com's top consultant in Jacksonville for 2017 and each year following through to 2021. So Bethany, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you
I
today?
forgot to mention you're a fellow FSU grad.
Correct. Go Knowles. Go Knowles.
Ah,
And you even got your garnet on.
That's right. I'm wearing garnet and a gold necklace.
Perfect. Representing.
that's right.
Is that a foreign language to you, Rebecca? You know, they have the Seminole chop.
Oh, as long as you understand each other.
As opposed to the Gators chomp. We don't like that.
No, that's a no-no.
Gator hater.
Gator
I mean,
hater.
it's fine. It's really not high stakes.
Gator's bad.
Yeah, it was much more fun back when I was in school. I graduated in 92, and then I think it was within that year, the next year, they won the national championship. So they were really good
Yeah.
when I went.
That's right. That's right.
My son there now is not going to the football games like we used to.
Sad.
It's a different world today.
It is. So Bethany, first of all, we wanted to announce that you are going to be on our advisory board for the Coterie for Women. So we're really excited to have you involved. So why don't you start off by talking to us a little bit, since our audience is mostly women, about why it's important to you to support women and be a part of something that's working toward that goal.
You know why it's really important to me is because I thought in my early 20s that I was going to have to really marry well in order to retire one day and to be able to have a comfortable life. And then sometime around the age of 25, I read a Susie Orman book called Women and Money. And it really told me that I could do it myself. I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time. I didn't become an entrepreneur until I was 35, 10 years later. But really, I just feel so passionately that when a woman has her own money, she can just be more comfortable and more confident in the world.
It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's the old saying? He who controls the purse strings controls life, right? And so if we're filling that purse with our own money one way or another through a business or a great career, and then investing wisely, it does set us on to a future where we have greater control of our lives.
And I prefer many purses as well. So
Many purses and many options and many ways to bring it in, right?
There you go.
Well, and I think it's such a great lesson. I'm involved in this mentoring group. It's under the guise of a pageant in Alabama, and I was never a pageant girl at all. Wasn't my thing. But I was asked to write the script for it, and then when I went to listen to their orientation, this woman at that time, it was in her late 70s, got up and she told these young girls, we are going to teach you how to interview. We're going to teach you how to speak. You need to make sure you're educated and you have your own money and you're independent and you can control your own destiny. And I was like, I did not expect a woman from, Southern Alabama to get up and make that kind of a speech. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. Why didn't you think you could do it yourself?
Because I was at my first job making, my whatever, $15 an hour, which I know is, for a youngster at the time in the early 2000s was not a bad living, but I just didn't ever see how I was going to be able to, get ahead and save for retirement. It just, it was all mystifying to me until, I read more about finance and really learned about it. And then as an entrepreneur, when I learned about, tax saving strategies and things like that, it just became evident to me that I don't even have to work the rest of my life. I don't have to work forever. So it wasn't really modeled explicitly in my household growing up, how we, manage finances. And so I just was perplexed by it until I got to learn how the world works. So.
I think you and the rest of the world are perplexed by money. It's really not something taught at home, and not largely anyway. And it's certainly not taught at a high school level or even at a college level about how to become financially independent, how to be good stewards of our money, how to diversify our revenue streams. All of those things really aren't taught. It's kind of forced on us when we become entrepreneurs, when we're out in the world and we're struggling, we have to sort of find those resources like you did with a book or some other resources to figure this out. Sure. I wished I would have been taught as a kid about making money, saving money, investing money. It wasn't anything I was taught.
Nobody tells you that the job is not the best way to make money. It's not the job.
Never is.
The corporate cubicle scheme. It's not really a get rich quick scheme. So
it's right. It's a scam.
Well, and there is such a misperception, and I think it's changed generationally. My parents and grandparents, you don't leave a job. You don't leave a good job. And so when my ex-husband was in the Navy and he wanted out, his mother had a fit. She's like, why would you leave? It has benefits. It has, income. You have this, you have that. Well, at that time, the Navy wasn't secure. It comes and goes. They were forcing people out because they had overstaffed during the first Gulf War. So after that kind of calmed down, they were pushing people out and giving them early retirement and all these things. And it wasn't as secure as it had been. And even then, income potential overall over the course of a career is not as high as, you can live, but it's not, like you said, you're going to be working a while. So it's an interesting thing how perception changes over time. I think my parents are still of that generation where you don't leave a job necessarily. I mean, they're very supportive of us having our own businesses, but it's not something that you're taught, because I think of that. Don't you think?
Well, actually, when my husband quit his job, he was a health and safety engineer at a defense contractor, and he quit his job to come work with me last summer. And he told his dad about it, and his dad said, it's either the best decision you ever made or the worst decision you ever made. We'll find out. So
we'll see.
Yeah. So far, so good, though.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. I mean, and whoever thought that would happen, right?
Yeah. I never thought I would be the breadwinner ever, but it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. So Bethany, to that point, did you think when you were a teenager you would end up an entrepreneur helping other entrepreneurs?
No, I had my first job was working in the pharmacy at Eckerd's, if you remember Eckerd's. And, I went to college and was on track to be a pharmacist. And my college roommate, who actually is a pharmacist, she was a year ahead of me. And we were at Florida State, and I was at Florida State, she was at FAMU. And I just saw all these kids that just hated life. And I was over here, like, my major was pretty easy. I was getting through my classes pretty easily. And so I just decided not to go to pharmacy school. It seemed like it was too hard. And, it took, I'm always taking the easy, like when the road splits, I take the easy solution. I don't know. But I just thought, I would be a pharmacist, and I would have sold myself so short if I had taken that path. And, maybe the initial 10 or so years that I was climbing the corporate ladder before I started my business were, not as financially fulfilling as being a pharmacist, but I learned so much over those years. And then, I started my business because I made a really terrible life error 6 or 7 years ago, if anybody can relate. But I fell in love, and I was engaged to a fella, not my husband. And I was at a really cushy corporate job, and he convinced me to quit my job and sell my car. He bought me a car, sold my condo, moved in with him at the beach, and worked for his companies. And he had a couple of retail stores, and one of them was hemorrhaging money. And I was able to turn it around, and I was really proud of that work. And I had given up, my previous life for all of this. And then we split up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done here? I had to, I spent 6 months at my friend's vacation home. She was nice enough to let me land there. And while I, was in this lovely resort town, I, got my druthers about me and started a consulting company. Initially, my company was hourly consulting for small businesses, helping them improve their financial picture, improve their net profits. And then early on in my networking group, my BNI group, one of the bankers asked me if I could write a business plan for a deal that she was doing, that she was working on. And I had not written a business plan before, but I was like, I could figure this out. And so I went to Google University and, wrote this business plan, and they loved it. They loved it. And it was difficult for me because I did it all by hand. I didn't have a program. But then when I finally figured out how to make it easier on myself, make it more automated, then I started selling it and marketing it. And then slowly but surely, like the hourly consulting was dropping off, and I was doing more and more business plans. And then back in 2019, I started scaling my business. I hired a coaching company out of Connecticut, and it's been an amazing experience. I immediately, after starting to work with them, hired my first 2 employees, and now we have 11 employees. Several of those are contractors, but several of them are full-time as well. And yeah, I've got these 2 businesses now. the rapid business plans and rapid loan packaging. And I just, I was pretty satisfied with my little income when I was doing it solo, and then really got the bug for scaling and like stepping out of my business. And I had a goal of being out of my business, out of the day-to-day by about 2025, and having my husband be out of the day-to-day in the business by 2025. And he's now currently out of the business day-to-day. And I have one job left at my company. I've like relinquished all my other jobs. And so other people are doing the work. And I'm just doing a little bit of the marketing and all the higher level decision making and visionary stuff. And it's just been so much fun to build a legitimate business. So it's been great.
That's such a great story, Bethany, especially when your expectation, it's interesting how many people we talk to who kind of fall into what it is they were supposed to do. And before we started on air, we talked to you about your theme of life, and now I understand where that is coming from. So tell everybody, if you have to define your life by a certain specific theme, what is yours and why?
Dust yourself up and try again, because, I've fallen down a number of times in my life, and those just seem to be catalysts for some next great achievement in my life. And so I used to cry over breakups. I used to cry over career stuff. And I used to cry when, I made a mistake with my business. And now they all just turn out to be, turning points for something way better.
I love that theme. It sounds like there's a secondary theme in there too, something about taking the easy way, which was about replicating, working through others, and all of that. So these two themes seem to run side by side in your life, and definitely has allowed you to build a wonderful business and obviously careers for others that are working with you.
Thank you. It's been really cool. I appreciate the compliment.
Well, and I think too, is taking the easy road. I think that underestimates what you're doing. It sounds like you're just, oh, well, I'm just going to go the easy way, but it's not. Right. To me, it's when you encounter roadblock after roadblock, maybe you're not on the right path. And I think when you're doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, things seem to fall into place a little more easily. Not that you don't work for it or create those opportunities, but when you're on that right path, I have found when I have strayed from what I in my heart know I'm supposed to be doing, it has just not gone well.
Yes.
So I think the intuition to follow the path before you isn't just taking the easy way out. I think that minimizes your decisions.
Well, and Elizabeth, part of it too, this coaching program that I'm in, it's a business coaching program out of Connecticut called Bold Heart, and it's a mindset first program. And so all this work I've been doing the last 2 years has been like crazy stuff that I never thought I would ever be doing in my life, like hypnotism or neurolinguistic programming, or I'm going to say it, I don't care because it's working. I have an energy healer. I never thought I'd be a person in my life that had an energy healer, but this is stuff that's like, it's taken away these subconscious blocks for my abundance, I didn't know those are like buzzwords and stuff like that, but truly it's work that I didn't know needed to be done. I had to, really get beyond, the outside and get on the inside, and it's made all the difference. I know it might sound crazy, but it's been working for me. So.
Well, I think there are so many people who talk about mindset in terms of money and self-fulfilling mindset in terms of money. You don't think you deserve it. You don't think you're good enough. You don't think whatever it is, that you're worth being paid a certain amount. I think a lot of women struggle with that. So I think what you're talking about in the practical application is just removing your own, getting out of your own way to open the possibilities. And however you accomplish that, if it works, I'm not opposed to doing anything that's going to make that happen. Right. But that's what it is. It's removing those internal roadblocks to achieve something that's beyond what you even thought you could do. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
Which makes things easier, right? When you remove those roadblocks.
It does. Like Elizabeth said, getting out of your own way. I didn't even know that these things were jammed up inside of me. So
I don't think most of us know. These are unconscious, subconscious, whatever wiring, programming we got as children, or societal programming that we get that life has to be hard, or you got to work a billion hours before you make a million, or whatever the beliefs are that we have. I don't think we're conscious. I don't think we're conscious oftentimes. So having a coach or having a friend or being part of a networking group that calls us out on certain things, it said, are you aware that you're doing this, or this, there might be something that's preventing you from doing this more effortlessly, or have you considered? Having that kind of feedback from people that care about us is so important. And it sounds like you have several of those types of individuals in your life that you trust to point those things out and help you move through them.
For sure. And, actually what we were talking about reminded me of this part, and it really wasn't expounded upon too much in the book, but in the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, he said, we need to rethink productivity. Productivity isn't going to the office for 80 hours a week. Productivity may be maximizing the time that I'm spending working. Like right now I'm back to pre-scaling my business. I was working 15 to 20 hours a week before I scaled my business. Then I had a really intense year. And now I'm back to working 15 to 20 hours a week. And then the rest of the time is so productive personally. I am back to reading books, the amount that I want to read, and spending time in the sunshine like I like to do, and traveling with my husband. So I just think that we have these notions, like you said, Rebecca, just that are imprinted on us from, you're right, childhood and society and things like that. And it's, it doesn't have to be that way. Although I will say too, this is going to sound crazy also, but I'm a Redditor. Do you guys ever use Reddit?
Yeah, I've been on there. Yeah.
There's an anti-work subreddit too that I lurk on a little bit, where they really talk about, what are we really doing? What are we all doing here? So I didn't expect this conversation to get so philosophical, honestly.
Well, I think it's so interesting.
So
yeah, because this is what we like to do.
Cool.
But it's so interesting to me because I've had that same thing where you fall down in life a bunch. Like that's why my theme is you can't make this shit up. But I think at some point you fall down so much, it's not even a conscious thing where you're thinking, I don't deserve this, or it's just not going to work out for me, or this is always going to be a struggle. It's that unconscious thing of just being in survival mode. I think getting over survival mode helps you get to that next level. And if you're stuck in this rolling ball down the hill, it's hard to stop that momentum. So I think the work that you've been doing seems to have been so impactful. And you're doing things so intentionally.
That's a fact. It's true. And, I didn't have a plan for my business when I started. Hello, I write business plans and I didn't even have my business plan, right? But in looking at, the future and what this business is going to do, it's just, it's really, I'm laying the groundwork for that. And you're, like you said, being very intentional.
You can see it from the way that you talk.
So Bethany, nice. You talked about this idea of productivity and that maybe we're got some skewed views or beliefs about it. Do you have a definition of productivity that you live by, or one that you could share with our listeners?
Well, I don't know if I have a definition, I would say, but one of my hobbies is like, personality profiling and things like that. And I'm the kind of person that works in like really productive little bursts. So for me to like be sitting at a desk for, 40 hours a week, or to, even wake up every morning and be at my desk is not like, it's not stimulating to me. And so I do work in these little bursts of creative energy, usually, in the late morning and early afternoon is my time to be productive. But I just think that I really couldn't say a definition of productivity, but more, I just think that the way that I'm productive contributes to my happiness. And I think happiness is being able to do what I want when I want.
With whom I want.
Yes. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, that's an important one. Well, Bethany, now that we've talked about you mentioned your business plans and not having one. So I want you to tell us a little bit of a brief overview about what you do with the business planning. And then I want you to get into some of the things that are important for people to know now with the pandemic and the SBA loans and all the things that are going on in the world. So first, give us a little rundown of the Rapid Business Plans business model.
Sure. Rapid Business Plans, we write business plans for companies that need SBA loans. So anytime you get a business loan from the Small Business Administration through your bank or through, a specialty lender, you have to have a business plan most of the time as part of that package. And we help our clients do that. We actually use a software called LivePlan, which is available commercially to anyone. on a consumer basis, actually. But we use that software for all of our business plans, liveplan.com. And then there are also other free resources. You don't have to pay to get help with a business plan, but the SBDC, the Small Business Development Council, or also SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Entrepreneurs, will help you with your business plan. But where we really find our business is when people need a business plan in a pinch. They need it like yesterday. And so we're able to turn around a full business plan usually within about 4 business days. And then I do have the support staff so that if the lender wants to see any changes to that business plan, which happens a lot more since COVID, I feel like people didn't used to read the business plans and now they do. But we do have staff that make sure we make changes in a hurry. So we're not holding up any part of the deal. But if you're lucky enough to work with your SBDC, you may have several visits over the course of several months where they're giving you feedback on your business plan. Whereas we really, take all that work from you and take the burden off of the client.
Right. I remember the first time I wrote a business plan, it was like pulling teeth. It was painful, painful. So I'm sure you're offloading a huge burden for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially like you said, when they're under a time crunch and they need to get some funding and they have to have, something that shows proof of concept or idea or the direction they're going and the leadership of that company. So to do it in 4 days, holy schmoly, I cannot even imagine.
We have processes, and I was able to slice and dice what we do. So I have somebody doing financial projections, I have somebody doing writing, somebody else doing research. So that's how we're able to achieve that in such a short period.
So it's many heads, many hands
yes.
to one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
So that's been fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So which leads us into the loans, since that's typically why people need them. So talk to us about what's going on. We've had all kinds of information over the last year that has been kind of fluid, and the rules are changing. And I think the people who are writing the rules don't even know the rules half the time until after the fact, and then they go back and clarify or update. So tell us what we need to know now about getting SBA loans, getting some help through this pandemic, and that kind of thing.
Sure. Let's talk about a couple different things. So PPP loan is a brand new program from 2020, which everybody's heard about on the news. There was the original PPP last year in April and May of last year. And then also there was PPP2 from this stimulus from late December, early January. The original cutoff date for PPP2 was going to be March 31st. They've moved it to May 31st. That PPP1 was available to most every business. PPP2 or small businesses. PPP2 is available to small businesses that are able to demonstrate a loss in 1 quarter of 2020 of 25% or more versus the same quarter of 2019. So those are available through your bank. We have a broker that we work with that can get you connected with the funding source if anybody still hasn't gotten that second PPP, and you can show that 25% or greater loss in the 1 quarter of 2020 versus the same in 2019. And then also for regular SBA loans, that stimulus also made it great to get a regular SBA loan. So those are things that you also, the SBA partners with banking institutions. And so because of that end of the year stimulus last year, if you were to close on your SBA loan for whatever you're doing, a startup or an expansion, franchise, partner buyouts, buying property or whatever, if you're getting an SBA loan for that and you close or you get approved by September 30th, then the SBA will make your first 3 payments for you. They're not deferred payments. It's like they're paying your bill for you the first 3 months. And then now the SBA works with banks for these regular SBA loans. And they say, hey, if you do this and stimulate the economy with these small business loans, we will guarantee 75% of the value of that loan in the event of a default in any regular year. But because of the stimulus in 2021, the SBA is saying, hey, we're guaranteeing 90% of the value of that loan in the event of a default. And so if you're coming up with a 10% down payment for your loan and the SBA is going to cover 90% in the event of a default, then the bank really is going to be made whole. They don't have any, what they call the industry an airball to worry about. They don't have any uncollateralized funds there. And so, it's, banks are really itching to get this money out and to make these deals happen. And then in order for the SBA to pay for that, for them to, be able to pay for defaults, they charge every SBA loan a guarantee fee, which can be anywhere between like 2 to 3.5% of the value of the loan. And most SBA loans are going to be between $350,000 and $5 million. So it's going to be between, $7,000 and $70,000 that you're paying as a guarantee fee. But that has been waived as a result of the stimulus. So if you close before September 30th, you don't have to pay that 2 to 3.5% guarantee fee on your SBA loan. And so those are the regular loans. And then with my company, what we do, so the SBA has had this, well hidden program directly through them. It doesn't go through banks, but it's the EIDL or EIDL program, the Economic Impact Disaster Loan Program. It's been a part of the SBA for decades at this point. So for any federally declared disaster, like a tornado, hurricane, this recent winter storm that we had, and of course the pandemic, the SBA makes available these long-term low interest loans to business owners who are experiencing, depressed economic situation at no fault of their own. And so for disasters other than coronavirus is special, you can get up to $2 million, and then you would have 12 months of no payments, and then 30 years at 3.75%. So that would be any disaster other than coronavirus. And then you can also go back and get a second round of funding up to another $2 million. It really depends on your financial circumstance, what they will give you. They don't just give everybody $2 million. You kind of have to justify it. That's kind of the work that we do at my company, is helping people get the amounts they're looking for. And then for coronavirus, if you were to get a new EIDL loan for the pandemic in 2021, you would have 18 months of no payments. So you have an extended period, a much more extended period with no payments, and then also 30 years at 3.75%. And you can also go, and those are up to 500,000. And then you can also go back and get a second round of funding, which will be up to another 500,000. Now, people may remember that those were previously truncated at 150,000, the coronavirus disaster loans. Now they've been expanded up to 500,000 now for people. And so we help people secure a second round of funding or help them get the amounts they're looking for. It's easy to apply yourself. It's really hard to get the amount that you're looking for unless you kind of know the machinations that go on behind the scenes.
No, the inside scoop, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So-
Oh my God. You know what that was? That was thousands of hours on the phone is what that was.
No, I totally get it. You have to know the inside track on a lot of this stuff. So what criteria is there for someone, and you call it an EIDL loan, what's the criteria besides there's a catastrophe that just happened? Does this a business owner have to have employees? Do they have to have a certain amount of revenue already? Do they have to have been in business a certain period of time? Are there any additional criteria that's required for them to be able to apply for these types of loans?
That's a very good question, Rebecca. So you need to have been in business prior to the declaration. It could be, usually we say a month to keep it safe. But really, if you've been in business, if you've been incorporated at least a month prior to that disaster, then you can get funding. For coronavirus, we've seen people incorporate in 2020 and get disaster loans. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been able to really help some people get funded for stuff. And then also, if you had been incorporated prior to that disaster, there are other reasons why the loan would be automatically declined. So we screen all of our people. We don't let people hire us if they have any of these complications. So if credit is below 640, you're limited at up to 50,000, and that would be unsecured. So credit is a concern. If there have been any bankruptcies in the last 7 years, there's a different strategy that we would take, kind of depending. There's some bankruptcies that are okay, like medical and divorce, and some that are just not okay with the SBA. There can't have been any arrests in the last 6 months, no felonies in the last 7 years. Yeah, you're good, Rebecca. I think most people are good. I know, right? Then some people are like, well, what if? And then it's like, oh, I'm sorry. But, and the other one too, is you can't have had any previous defaults on government loans like FHA, VA, federal student loan, or other SBA loans. And then we've had 100% success in people that pass our screening. We've gotten 100% of people first offers on that. Now, some people get hung up. They just get lost in the red tape, and we help pull them out of that. And then for some of our clients, the last step that we take, if we can't, solve it through our regular means, is to write their congressman. And we found that very effective for the people that we just can't get them through. So
you hold their hand all the way through the process.
We do everything. They let go of our hand and walk away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes
That's
life easy.
amazing. Well, that is very encouraging for anybody who's looking for help, that you have had that 100% success rate, and that
Yeah.
there is help out there. I think that so many people have just been terrified.
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes
it's
that's
true.
paralyzing too. You can't even find your way to get the help.
Right. It
Yeah.
is. It's like, it's elliptical, the whole process. It's really hard to get through.
Yeah. I think people don't even try when they feel ignorant about something. So here are these things available to small business owners, and we deal a lot with franchisees and franchisors, Bethany. But if they're not knowledgeable, sometimes they're not even putting themselves out to get this kind of help during these difficult times. So to have someone come alongside, advising them, and like you said, even just sort of taking over and doing all the pieces for them is such a relief, so they can focus on the business, right?
Well, and Rebecca, the other point too that I'd like to make here is that some people get really scared of like getting involved with the government. Like if I like, the point is just pay your loan on time, and don't buy a Ferrari with the money. Okay, that's fine. It's like, just use it for your business.
Or a jet plane. You don't want to do that either.
I know. Don't be Ruth Chris and get one.
Don't be goofy.
That's so funny. It reminds me of my son when he was in like second grade. He talked all the time and he kept getting in trouble and he was crying. And I'm like, well, Luke, do you know the rules? And he said, yes. And I said, well, then follow them. It's so easy.
It's as easy as that.
Follow the rules. It's the same thing on the adult scale. Don't just don't break the rules. Pay your loan back, be smart.
Yeah,
I do want to say
dumb.
that if you get this disaster loan, if it's your first involvement with the SBA, then you become known to the SBA, and it makes it easier to get other loans in the future.
Which is a great point.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I do want to say too, also, that if you have this SBA EIDL loan or a PPP loan that hasn't been forgiven yet, if there's a change of ownership in your company, if you sell or if one of the members is no longer a member, those loans have to be settled before a change of ownership. Just want to make everyone
another good point. Yeah. That's something people need to know before they sign on the dotted line, right?
Yes.
Excellent. That's very helpful. Okay, I have one more question, if it's okay.
Of course.
What's your future? What's next for you now that you got control of your time and your finances and your world? What's big on the horizon for you?
I don't know. My husband called this pavers guy, and we're gonna, kind of amp out the backyard and just, see how that's gonna go. I don't know. I even thought about selling my business in the next 10 years, and I just love I love the cash flow from it, and I love, dabbling in it. I know I'm going to be dabbling less over the years, but I just, I'm a newlywed, and I just want to ride off into the sunset with this guy.
Aww.
Yeah.
Sounds like you did good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Aw.
you did. So Bethany, if people watching want to get in touch with you about any of the things that you have discussed, what is the best way for them to reach you or someone at your office?
Yeah, they can go directly to rapidbusinessplans.com, and on our contact page, they can submit an inquiry, and then we have a very quick response time with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Bethany, for spending time with us today and sharing your wisdom. It's very appreciated.
Thank you. You both were so much fun. Thank you. This was great.
Well, thanks.
Hey,
We'll have to
that's our
have you
middle
back another
name.
time. This was very much fun. So we'll see you soon.
Cool. Thank you.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse Report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right Fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing. We take the things that we have learned in our businesses and lives and from our guests on the show and talk about them with you so that hopefully we can all come away learning a little something. So Rebecca, this week we talked to Bethany McClellan of Rapid Business Plans, who is also an advisory board member for the Coterie. And she was talking about her theme of life being dust yourself off and try again, which is, it's a simple thing, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And she talked about the things that she'd gone through in terms of dating the wrong guy and giving up her whole life. I've kind of done the same thing one time in high school and college, and never a good idea to give everything up you have and follow a boy. But she has overcome that every single time. And she says, just picking yourself up, dusting yourself off and trying again is something that has helped her propel into where she is now. So what was your takeaway from that?
I thought it was a wonderful life theme, kind of almost a nonchalant way that she said it. Okay, I screwed up. I made a mistake. I went the wrong direction. Fine. Dust yourself off, get up and try again. And she talked about where she would just grieve and cry and gnashing of teeth after every situation. And finally, when she kind of adopted this, okay, fine, dust yourself up, get back up, do it again. I think it's a wonderful life theme, because if you're going to walk this earth, you're going to have challenges. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make poor decisions. It's part of how we evolve and we grow as human beings, right? And so if we get hung up and I made a mistake, I made a wrong decision, whatever it is, we can get mired in that, in the past and in the yuck, doesn't let us go forward. So this whole theme, fine, dust yourself off, get back up. I think it's a beautiful one. I think we should all adopt it.
I do too. And like Laura Spalding says, bad things didn't happen to her, they happened for her. It's kind of another way of saying that Bethany seemed to appreciate now the struggle instead of crying over it. She was saying, I used to cry, I used to do this or that. And now seems like, I'm sure she still has disappointments, but it seems like she appreciates them for what they are, which is a learning experience that's going to lead her to the next best thing. And I think that's an attitude that's hard. And I've told this before, but my dad had that 24-hour mourning period after he lost a big trial.
Yeah.
He had to get back up and keep moving. And I think it's an important thing to have that as a part of your routine.
Yeah. It's like,
to have a plan for when things don't go right.
Yeah, just get over it. I remember actually two people in my life that talks about things that happened eons ago and all this horror, and this is why their life is this way kind of thing. Sometimes I want to just say, get over it. You're not living 20 or 30 years ago. And even if it is affecting you, let's pull the positive out of it, right? So you can't change that, but you can certainly change your life today. But sometimes you just want to say to people, move on, get over it, which is kind of what Bethany was saying to herself. Is like, okay, well, let's stop.
Well, and moving on doesn't necessarily mean that you don't carry that experience with you. It's how you use it. Are you using it for good? Are you using it as a life lesson? Or are you using it as an excuse and a crutch?
Which is, I think, what happens to a lot that go into that kind of victim versus victor mode. And Bethany and Laura Spalding, as you mentioned, both chose to be victors over that situation and learn from it and catapult themselves using what they learned. Others hold on to it and they're victims of it and they don't move forward.
Hmm.
It's a lot of energy to kind of hold on to the past
Well, it
and to
is.
the
It's like,
sorrow.
anger and hate take up a lot of space. And
Sure does.
it's just almost probably never. I don't even think it's never worth it.
It's never worth it.
For yourself, to have to be saddled with those heavy, awful feelings.
I agree. So let's all commit, ladies and guys that are watching this. No more holding on to the past. Dust yourself off. Move on. Right? Next. Whatever next is. Next.
Yeah. Thank you. Next. Is that
Thank
Ariana
you, next.
Grande? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hipper than we look.
We are. We're very hip.
All right. We will see you next time on Women in the Know.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. If you have a question for us, send it to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. So our question today, Elizabeth, comes from our conversation with Bethany McClellan. And she was talking about this idea of making life easier. It's almost like it was a theme in her life, or at least a focus in her life of how she could make her business more effortless, make her life more effortless. But basically this idea of easy. And I got to tell you, it resonated with me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to embrace that idea. So what were your thoughts about this whole idea of finding ways to make our life more easy?
Well, I think it's such a novel concept, kind of, because it's not something that we seem to think is the best thing. A lot of people want to talk about how hard they work, how long they work, how challenging they like to be challenged, and none of those things are bad. But I think sometimes we forget that sometimes making your life easier is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed to take the path of least resistance sometimes and has created a path for herself that is not resistant to the way that she wants to spend her time. And I think there's power in that. There's power in being able to create a business where you're making the living, you've got people doing, she's hired out all the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
And she's created a system that works where she's allowed to have a lot more time of her own. And I mean, who wouldn't want that, right?
Exactly. She says, I'm back to working 12 to 15 hours a week. And I'm like, wow, what entrepreneur wouldn't want a life that is created in such a way where they're saying, I work about 12 to 15 hours a week and I have this lifestyle that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, being a baby boomer, we come from that generation where it's all about hard work, and it's hard work that ultimately gets you to a certain level of success. And then I have German upbringing, and I remember Paul Pickett talking about his Scandinavian upbringing and how that, taught him to work hard and to basically start to think about how can I make this easier, through replicating, through teaching others, through automation, through better use of my time, whatever it is. I think if we think about it once in a while, how can I make this easier. I have a classic example, Elizabeth, and it's my brother. My brother's been retired, I don't know, since his 40s. He plays with his investments, but every single decision is based around, he uses the word lazy. Now, that's not the word that Bethany used. She said easy. That's different to me than lazy.
Mhm.
But he says, I always take the lazy way. How can I make money the lazy way? If I have to put in all this effort to make X dollars and I can do something over here that requires less effort and make the same dollars, why wouldn't I choose this other thing? So every decision he makes, financially and otherwise, is, how can I put in the least amount of effort for the greatest amount of results? And I think it's a wonderful way to look at life.
Well, it is. And it does give you more time. There's nothing wrong with having free time. I think sometimes we need to wrap our brains around that. It's not a flaw to take time off and to rest and to be with family and to do all of those things. Just because, and I think in some ways the pandemic has made that harder because we're home working and it's harder to put an end to your day.
Right.
You think I could just sit down and get this done, or I could sit down and get that done, and finding those moments of relaxation and rest sometimes seem a little bit indulgent.
It does, doesn't it? You know, having worked out of my home most of my life, it's true. You know, even when you have 15 minutes, you're throwing in a load of laundry, right? Or folding laundry,
That's
or
my break.
right. There's never really any kind of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should ponder this more.
Mm-hmm.
What in our lives, and I would be curious to our listeners, what in your life do you make more difficult than it needs to be?
Mm-hmm.
And what do we get out of making it tougher or making it easier? Or what in your life could, if you really thought about it, could be done in a more effortless way? I'll give you a crazy example. My granddaughter, who works about 10 hours a week, that's all she wants to work.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't grocery shop. She has her groceries delivered to her home. And I'm thinking, you work 10 hours a week. Why can't you go to the grocery store? And then my next question to myself is, why, if she can have it delivered? She's right. It's an easier way. It saves her whatever, an hour's worth of time that she could be spending with her husband or her family or her friends, or taking a nap for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for those conveniences. The first time I ever ordered them for delivery was during this pandemic. And I just didn't have time to go, for one thing. And I had a big run that I needed to do. And so I just sat down and ordered it. And I thought, why do I ever go? I hate the grocery store so much. Why don't I just do this every single time? Donald likes to go, so he'll say, oh, I'll just go. But when we need like staples, I'm going to start doing that because it was so convenient. And if you need it quickly, you can pay $17 for an expedited fee, which I almost never need it quickly. But that day I had a window.
Yeah. But is your time worth $17 an hour?
That day it was.
At least, right? You know, and there's other things, if we really looked at it, what in our life that we make more complex, more difficult, and what could we do to make it easier? Sometimes it's hiring someone else. Sometimes it's just, you know, doing two things at the same time. Sometimes it's just, you're very organized, organizing our day where we can do 2 or 3 or 4 things at the same time. But hey, I'm all for doing things a little more easy.
Yeah,
in my
I mean,
life.
it's kind of a nice thing to think about because I don't think about that often enough.
Me either.
I'm just trying to get it all done. And actually, this is something interesting. Annie, my sister, Annie Malloy, who designs our magazine, has come onto the coterie to do marketing with us. And when she kind of stepped in and looked at the way we were doing things, she said, you need to work smarter, not harder. And she had some ideas for streamlining. And sometimes it takes that objective outside view for someone to say, why exactly? And you get, when I think when you're starting something new too, you just throw it all out there and get it all done. And then there are times where you step back and streamline or organize it differently or find out what's working and what's not. And she's like, we can do this differently. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I've been so in it that I didn't see it. So I think that having Bethany come in and using her as an example of how it can be, there's never anything wrong with working smarter, not harder.
Amen.
Yes. So let's do it.
Love it. All right. So, best tips any of you have from working smarter, not harder? We want to hear them in the whatever chat feature, whatever that thing is down there. We want
Give
you
us
to
a comment, give us a like, and make sure you've subscribed.
There you go.
And then share it with your friends and let us know what they say. How do you do it? We want to know.
There you go. So thank you for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide and profits are made and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.